Due to technical difficulties, there will be no video on this devotion. Today on Running to Him, the way we judge reflects our relationship with God. Now, if you're joining us in going through the books of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther, today's reading is Esther 9, verses 9 through 19, and we will concentrate on chapter 9, verses 15 and 16. Verse 15 says this: The Jews who were in Susa assembled on the 14th day of the month Adar and killed 300 men in Susa, but they did not lay their hands on the plunder. Now the rest of the Jews who were in the king's provinces assembled to defend their lives and to rid themselves of their enemies, and killed 75,000 of those who hated them, but they did not lay hands on the plunder. Now, sometimes it's challenging to get our minds around the fact that at times God uses people to judge other people. This position is even more difficult when you turn to Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2, where Jesus is quoted as saying, "Do not judge so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you." Now, there seems to be on the surface some form of contradiction. In reality, there is none. The first principle is not that we are to declare which is to be judged and that which is not to be judged. Judgment is God's responsibility and not man's. Therefore, when we are called upon to render some kind of judgment against someone, it is imperative that we have some sort of unchanging morality behind that judgment. For example, in discipline involving the church, your judge is based on God's laws and principles, not your own. Then it is not your judgment that you are rendering, but God's. Governmental judgment is roughly the same, but then you are relying on the government to utilize God's principles. For example, do not murder, do not steal, do not commit perjury, etc. In other words, in judgment, you must be removed from the source of the judgment, not the act of judging. Now, I believe this is why the Jews in this case did not plunder those who they killed. It was the edict of the king which allowed them to do so, but it was God's direction that they judge, not plunder. Now, even Jesus pointed out this principle in John chapter 5, verse 30. I can do nothing on my own initiative. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I do not seek my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And in John 8, verses 15 and 16, he says, You judge according to the flesh. I am not judging anyone. But even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone in it, but I and the Father who sent me. Well, today, many people take the do not judge verbiage and suggest that everyone should be able to exercise their judgment and not have to follow the rules and principles that have been laid down. Early in Israel's history, in the book of Judges, we're told that there was chaos in the land because everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Judges 17:6. Now, judgment is always based on God's principles. We act on those first in our lives, and then, only through God's leading, on others in our community. Thank you for listening. We pray that today's devotion was meaningful to you. We would love to hear from you. If you listen to us on Facebook or YouTube, please like, subscribe, share, and tell others about us. You can always email us at phineasjacobus@runningtohim.net.